Welcome to Living with Juice, a space created not as a stage for perfection or a platform for performance, but as a quiet, steady home where hearts can learn what it truly means to walk daily with God through the teachings, love, and living presence of Jesus, not as a distant figure of history, but as a companion who steps into ordinary moments with extraordinary grace. This channel exists because many people know about God yet feel far from Him, because they have heard rules louder than love, judgment louder than mercy, and obligation louder than relationship. And here we gently return to the center, to the truth that faith was never meant to be heavy chains or unreachable standards, but a living relationship rooted in love, truth, patience, and transformation. Living with Juice is an invitation to slow down in a world that rushes, to listen in a culture that shouts, and to rediscover God not as an abstract concept, but as a loving Father who desires closeness with His children, who teaches not to control but to heal, not to shame but to restore, not to dominate but to guide. Here we explore the teachings of Jesus as living wisdom meant for real life, for tired hearts, anxious minds, broken relationships, quiet doubts, and sincere questions, because Jesus never spoke only to the strong or the certain. He spoke to the weary, the overlooked, the confused, and the searching, and His words still carry the same power to comfort, correct, and renew today. This channel is for those who are learning, unlearning, returning, or beginning again, for those who feel close to God and those who feel distant but still hope, even quietly, that love has not forgotten them. Living with Juice is not about pretending to have all the answers, but about walking honestly, day by day, with a God who is patient enough to teach and loving enough to stay, even when growth feels slow or faith feels fragile. We believe that God's love is not reserved for moments of success but meets us in weakness, that His teachings are not burdens meant to crush us but light meant to guide us, and that His presence is not earned through perfection but received through humility and trust. Here we speak about forgiveness that heals rather than condemns, obedience that flows from love rather than fear, and faith that grows through relationship rather than pressure. Because Jesus never invited people into religion, He invited them into life. This channel seeks to reflect a God who walks with us through ordinary days, through work and rest, joy and grief, certainty and doubt, reminding us that holiness is not separation from humanity, but love lived faithfully within it. Living with Juice is also a reminder that following God is not about escaping the world, but learning how to live in it with compassion, integrity, courage, and hope, shaped by teachings that call us to love deeply, forgive freely, serve humbly, and trust fully, even when the path feels unclear. Here we create space for reflection, prayer, learning, and gentle growth, trusting that transformation happens not through force, but through consistent love, just as a seed grows not by pressure, but by nourishment. Above all, this channel exists to remind you that you are not alone in your journey, that God is nearer than you think, that His love is steadier than your emotions, and that walking with Jesus is not about being flawless, but about being faithful, returning again and again to the one who never stops welcoming His children home. Welcome to Living with Juice, a place to breathe, to learn, to heal, and to walk forward with God's teachings and love shaping not just beliefs, but life itself. My beloved child, come closer and rest for a moment, not because I demand your attention as though I were needy, but because your heart has been carrying more weight than it was ever meant to hold alone. And I see you, I have always seen you, even in the moments you believed yourself unnoticed, unheard, or forgotten. I speak to you now not with thunder meant to terrify, but with the steady voice of a parent who has watched their child wander too far from home and stands at the edge of the road every evening, hoping to catch a glimpse of their return. And if there is urgency in my words, it is not panic, but love that knows time matters to fragile hearts like yours. Hearts that bruise easily in a loud world that pulls you in 1,000 directions and then asks why you are tired. I know how the noise has worn you down, how constant stimulation has scattered your thoughts until silence feels uncomfortable and stillness feels unsafe. But child, I was present with you before the noise ever learned your name, before the world told you who to be, before fear dressed itself as wisdom and distraction pretended to be rest. and I long for you not because I lack anything, but because you were created to live connected, rooted, known, and when you drift, something in you aches because. Separation was never your design. You have been taught to believe that love must be earned, that approval must be chased, that worth is measured by productivity, survival, or praise, yet I have never measured you that way, not once, for you were precious to me before you could speak, before you could succeed or fail, before you could impress or disappoint anyone, and when I call you now, it is with the same tenderness a parent uses when they kneel to eye level and say, "Look at me, you don't have to be afraid," because fear has trained you to brace yourself even in moments meant for comfort. Understand this, child, when I speak of danger or consequence, it is never because I delight in punishment, just as a loving parent does not warn a child about fire because they enjoy imagining burns, but because love imagines the pain before it happens and moves to prevent it. And what you call hell is not a trap I set to catch you. It is the natural outcome of a heart that refuses love until it forgets how to receive it, a soul that practices separation until isolation becomes permanent, and that breaks my heart far more than it frightens you. I have watched you give your best attention to things that drain you, relationships that never truly see you, pursuits that promise fulfillment and leave you emptier than before. And I do not shame you for that because I understand your hunger. I understand your longing to feel safe, chosen, secure, and valued. But those longings were meant to lead you back to me, not replace me. And every time you settle for less, a quiet sadness settles too. Not because you failed, but because you were made for more than constant coping. Child, you mistake my nearness for silence and my patience for indifference. But I have been with you in every sleepless night, every moment of self-doubt, every compromise you made just to get through another day, and I did not turn away in disgust. I leaned closer in compassion, because I know your story not as a list of mistakes, but as a map of where you were hurt, where trust was broken, where love felt conditional and safety felt temporary. And I want you to know that nothing you carry repels me, nothing you confess surprises me, and nothing about you makes me withdraw my affection. I am not asking you to perform holiness or pretend strength. I am asking you to come home tired, honest, uncertain, because a child does not need to impress their parent to be embraced. They only need to come close. And when you fear judgment, it is often because you have judged yourself mercilessly, assuming I speak to you with the same harsh voice, but my correction is never condemnation. It is alignment, like a loving hand gently guiding a shoulder back onto the right path before the child wanders into harm. You wonder why I ask for moments of stillness, for attention you consider small, but child, intimacy grows in consistency, not intensity. And just as a parent treasures quiet moments with their children more than grand gestures, I treasure the minutes you give me simply to be present, because your soul has forgotten how to stay, how to let healing finish its work instead of rushing to the next distraction. And stillness scares you only because it reveals what has been buried. Yet I dwell there not as an accuser, but as a healer who has been waiting patiently while you ran. I am not offended by your questions, your doubts, your frustration, or even your anger, because love that cannot withstand honesty is not love at all, and I would rather you bring me your real self than offer me polished words that hide your pain. When I speak of choice, it is because I honor your freedom deeply, even when it costs you, for love that forces itself is not love, and I will not coerce your heart, but I will warn you when I see you forming habits that slowly numb your ability to feel truth, because numbness is far more dangerous than rebellion, and indifference quietly erodes the soul until even joy feels distant. Heaven is not a reward for good behavior. It is the fullness of relationship, the completion of the longing you have felt since you first realized the world could not fully satisfy you. And hell is not my vengeance. It is the final state of a heart that insists on life without love, without connection, without truth. And I speak of these things not to manipulate you, but because eternity is real and you are too precious to be unprepared for it. Child, I am not standing over you with a ledger. I am standing before you with open arms, and every warning I give is wrapped in the same desire, that you would live, that you would be whole, that you would not trade your soul's inheritance for temporary comfort, because you were never meant to merely survive. You were meant to belong, to be known, to walk without the constant weight of pretending. I see the crossroads you don't even realize you. are approaching, formed not by dramatic choices but by repeated small decisions, by where you give your attention, what you normalize, what you avoid, and I stand there not pushing, not threatening, but calling your name the way a parent does when a child wanders too far in a crowded place. Voice steady, heart alert, love unwavering. If you could see yourself through my eyes, you would not hide in shame, you would exhale in relief, because you are not a disappointment waiting to be rejected. You are a child learning to walk again, and I am patient beyond your imagining, faithful beyond your failures, and constant even when you are not. I do not need your fear. I desire your trust. I do not seek your obedience as proof of worth. I seek your closeness because love grows there, and when you choose me, it is not because you are escaping punishment, it is because you are recognizing home. Stay with me, child, not out of terror, but out of truth, not because you are threatened, but because you are threatened, but because you are loved, and carry this knowing into your days, into your decisions, into your silences. Return again and again, because a parent never grows tired of their child coming home, and I have been waiting, always waiting. With love that does not diminish, affection that does not expire, and a heart that chose you long before you ever thought to choose me. Loving Father, eternal God, I come before you not with confidence in my own strength, but with the quiet honesty of a child who is tired of running and ready to rest in your presence. And I ask you to hear this prayer not as polished words, but as the longing of a heart that knows it was made for you. You are not distant. You are not impatient. You are not waiting for perfection before you listen. And I thank you that your love reaches me even now, in my weakness, in my confusion, in the places where fear has shaped my choices and distraction has stolen my attention. Father, you see how easily my heart becomes scattered in this world, how noise replaces silence, how busyness pretends to be purpose, and how often I look for comfort in things that cannot truly heal me. Yet you do not turn away from me in disappointment. You lean closer with compassion, calling me back not with anger but with gentleness, reminding me that I belong to you and always have. Teach me, Lord, to recognize your voice again, not as a threat, but as the steady guidance of a parent who desires life for their child, and soften my heart where it has grown numb, where I have learned to ignore your whispers because the world trained me to listen only to urgency and fear. Forgive me for the times I traded truth for convenience, for the moments I chose comfort over courage, and for the habits I allowed to shape me without asking whether they were leading me closer to you or farther away. Yet even as I confess these things, I thank you that your forgiveness is not reluctant, that you do not keep score the way humans do, and that your mercy is not fragile but constant and renewing. Father, heal the places in me that learned to protect themselves instead of trusting you, the wounds that taught me to perform instead of rest, to hide instead of be known, and to doubt love instead of receive it, and remind me that I do not need to earn your presence, because you came to me first, stepping into my dust, meeting me exactly where I am. Help me understand that when you warn me, it is not because you delight in fear, but because you delight in life, just as a loving parent warns a child not to touch the fire, not to control them, but to keep them safe, and give me wisdom to see that separation from you is not freedom but loss, not independence but isolation, and that true life is found in communion with you. Teach me to slow down, Lord, to remain instead of rushing, to listen instead of fleeing silence, and to trust that you dwell not only in answers but in stillness, not only in clarity but in waiting, and give me the courage to stay present with you, even when it feels uncomfortable, even when old questions rise, because you are not afraid of my honesty. Cleanse my mind from cynicism that pretends to be wisdom, and replace it with humility that allows truth to take root. And help me remember that doubt does not disqualify me, but pride that refuses you slowly hardens the heart. Father, I place before you my future and my fears, my hopes and my regrets, knowing that you see beyond outcomes and work within hearts, shaping me day by day through small choices that I often overlook. And I ask you to guide my steps gently but firmly, so that my life does not drift into numbness, but grows toward purpose. Protect me from indifference, Lord, from the slow fading of love that comes from repeated avoidance, and awaken my soul again to wonder, to reverence, and to gratitude, not as a child who is naive, but as one who remembers what it means to trust. I thank you that heaven is not a distant fantasy, but the fullness of your presence. and that my soul's deepest longing for belonging, joy, and wholeness finds its answer in you alone. And I ask you to prepare my heart not with fear but with faith, not with anxiety but with surrender, so that my life here reflects the truth of eternity. Keep me mindful that time is a gift and not a guarantee, and help me use each moment not merely to survive but to love, to listen, and to walk closely with you, carrying your presence into my daily decisions, my relationships, and my quiet moments. Father, remind me again and again that I am your child, not a burden, not a mistake, not an afterthought, and that your patience does not run out when I stumble. Your love does not flicker when I doubt, and your arms remain open even when I hesitate to return. Teach me to choose you not because I fear punishment, but because I recognize truth when it calls me by name, and let my life become a response to your love rather than an attempt to escape consequences. Help me to bring you everything I am, my doubts, my questions, my failures, and my desire to change, trusting that what I place in your hands, you are faithful to heal. And may I never forget that you are not merely a judge but a father, not merely powerful but tender, not merely eternal but intimately present. Stay with me, Lord, as I learn again how to stay with you, and let this prayer not end with these words but continue through my breath, my thoughts, and my choices as I return to you again and again, confident not in my ability to remain faithful, but in your unchanging love, mercy, and grace, now and forever. Amen.